you got, brother?
Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace and salutations to all the Akim on the four corners and true sincerity. This is Sasha Kwalama here with the brother
Rock, Shalom.
Of the GMS Dallas camp, coming at you with a quick lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying unto the hopeful elect. Okay? Because today we got rained out. We couldn't really go to camp. So hey, might as well prophesy. So we're just gonna go into 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Start at the top. Because this is the part of the true treasure that Yahweh Shai is bestowing upon his elect. All right, because we are acquiring pieces of Yahweh Shai, especially to rest upon our minds as we're in this wicked kingdom. Okay, where the wicked is ruling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're just going to jump straight into the scriptures.
I got a precept.
Bible Kashaf.
This is Matthew chapter 6.
Come.
And I'm going to start at verse 19. It says, lay not up for yourselves. Did you have this held already?
No, you got it.
Okay, kind of. Matthew 6 and 19, it says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal.
See, so don't have your eyes fixed on things in the cardinal sense, because that's what Esau Edom does. All right, and those thieves that can come in and break through and steal, that is Esau Edom, because he is a Nigard. Okay, as it says in the Wisdom of Solomon chapter 14 verse 2. Slakia, Sirach chapter 14 verse 5, and Sirach chapter 31 verse 24. All right, it shows that Esau Edom is a stingy individual. All right, he wants everything that he can grab. All right, like it says also in that Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 5. But Yahweh Shai is showing us that we have a whole treasure chest up in the heavens. All right, and the treasures that we're going to collect is spiritual things that Esau can't reach. Okay, because these scriptures, this knowledge is out of Esau's reach. He can't duplicate it. He can't sell it. All right, but Bible say you got more.
Yeah, there's one more verse, Matthew 6 and 21. It says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
See, so where your treasure is, all right, and our treasure is these scriptures. Our treasure is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, because with wisdom begets understanding, which begets knowledge. All right, and knowledge, is to know. And whenever we know something, that means that we don't fall into those diverse temptations. Okay, but
yeah. What you got?
I just want to jump into that 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Start the top off the shop.
Okay, this is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, in verse 1. It says, therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not.
See? Because we received something so precious, all right? And we toil in this thing day and night, all right? Because we're supposed to. King David toiled in the scriptures day and night. You know, so are we not kings and priests? Should we not do the same things as prophets of old did? You know, and with that, Papa Kushai, could you jump back to 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 6?
Yeah. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 6. It says, who also hath made us able ministers of the new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life.
See, not of the letter. All right, but Salakia, Papa Kushai, could you read that again? Just so I can get all the meat off the bone.
This is 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 6. It says, who also hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life.
See, because Yahweh Shai has made us ministers of this ministry, okay? And everybody can't acquire it. Everybody can't get this ministry, you know, except for the elect of the 144,000. You know, the 144,000 and the 1/3. All right, and they're only going out to speak to you so-called Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans of Negro descent. Okay, but so Esau can't break through and steal the things that Yahweh Shai has bestowed upon his people. But you got something else?
Nah, I was just gonna make the point on when it says the letter. You know, it's basically referring to the old system,
the old system,
old covenant, in which like the brothers like we're going into, we're going into the new covenant. We're under grace right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because in the same chapter it talks about liberty.
Yep.
Like the Spirit gives us liberty, basically. All right, but the scriptures say, you know, use not your liberty for occasion to the flesh. All right, now that we're under this grace period, really we've been given the liberty to serve the Lord without having to worry about all the technicalities and all the various things that we would be condemned under. You know, that's the liberty that's talking about. But then too, when we're changed, we ain't never gonna be able to sin. No. So how much liberty we gonna have then? We gonna have, bro, that's true freedom and not being able to sin. Knowing whatever you can do. It's like I don't want to go on time.
No,
but
you got it.
You know, this is what we're looking forward to, man. This is part of the treasure.
Yeah.
What you got?
You know, so go back to that
chapter
4 and 2, Baba Kushai.
This is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and I'll start at the top again. It says, therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not, but have renounced the hidden things of dishonesty, not walking in craftiness, nor handling the word of Yahweh deceitfully, but by manifestation of truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God.
See, and it says, Salakia, it says, but having renounced, because we put off this world. All right, we chose through the Spirit and power of Yahweh to put off, you know, this whole society, because here we die all the day long. All right, but in these scriptures, you know, it renews us day by day. All right.
Yeah.
And not walking in dishonesty, you know, because you can walk in the flesh, you know, thinking that you're doing right, but you know, in your spirit, you know that you have, you know, erred in front of Yahweh Shai's face. Okay, but pull that First Maccabees chapter 12 verse 9. Baba Kushai.
Khan.
If you don't have anything else.
Khan. Let me pull it up. You said First Maccabees?
Yeah. 12 and 9, I perceive. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Because it goes hand in hand.
Okay. First Maccabees 12. So like, yeah, loading up.
Okay.
All right. This is First Maccabees chapter 12 and verse 9. It says, "Therefore we also, albeit we need none of these things, that we have the holy books of scriptures in our hands to comfort us."
See, so we don't need to, have faith in this society. We don't need to have faith in this world, all right? Because we know that this world is about to pass away, all right? So, with that, since we know it's about to pass away, where can we, where can our faith lie? You know, where can we, gain the wisdom and understanding that we desperately need? Especially now in these times that we desire openly. All right, we find that in the holy books of the scriptures, where our treasure is. All right, so where your treasure is where your heart is. Also, I believe you brought that out. So um, and that rests in the scriptures, because wisdom is in the scriptures. She's the one that meets you at every thought.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
but we can go back to that 2 Corinthians chapter 4.
Yep. Yep. And if I can add on to what you're saying, that's basically what people do on the left hand side in the world anyway. Like when it comes to people's spending habits, the things people spend their time on, their money on, they invest. Most of it is just things that are going to keep them comfortable.
Yep.
Things that are going to please the flesh. But like you're saying, when you value the word, there's a whole different level of comfort and peace that comes with treasuring that. It's different.
Con.
Did you want to go back to 2 Corinthians
4 and 3?
Con. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 3. It says, "If the good news we preach is hidden behind a veil, it is hidden only." Oh, this is an NLT slide.
Yeah.
We reading the KJV.
See, we in Oxford over here, brother.
2 Corinthians 4 and 3. It says, "But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost."
So because this truth isn't meant for everybody. This truth is only meant for the elect, for the ones that Yahweh Shemi Shai had from the beginning. Okay, because those same people, those same men have to come back to rebuild, or to put everything back in its proper order, because Esau fucked it all up. All right, and that reminds me of that Proverbs 21 verse 16. Wondering at the way of understanding.
Yeah.
Baba Shah.
Okay.
Because if this gospel is hid, it's hid to those that are lost. Because those are the ones that weren't meant to get it, and if they were given it, they casted it away. So they turned their back upon Yahweh Shemi Shai. They choose to walk according to their own lust. But
this is Proverbs 21 and 16. It says, "The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead."
All right, and that dead goes into the 2/3. The 2/3 of the nation of Israel, because they're in a dead state. Dead meaning they don't have the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of how Bashmi Shai bestowed upon the world of Israel. It's a separation. That's that Revelations chapter 11 verse 8. I'll pull it.
Yeah, these people are zombies.
Yep.
2/3 of our people are zombies, meaning they'll never. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you do. They're not going to be brought back. They can't understand this truth. And that actually makes me think about too, like when you watch certain zombie movies and TV shows. I don't know. You would know better than me because you've seen probably more of them.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure in some of the shows, like a part of the plot is
trying to find a cure.
Trying to find a cure for the zombies.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like,
but they can't be cured.
But they can't be cured. But that also shows how miraculous us being brought back to life is too.
Yep.
You know, because we were also those dead bodies.
Yeah.
But we were quickened.
We were quickened, and this is going to happen all the way up to the 11th hour. You know, because Yahweh Shemi Shai has the hand to heal whoever He feels. Mm-hmm. Okay, just to go in on your point. Mm-hmm. Right, but I'm gonna read this is Revelations chapter 11. Well, Salakia, Revelations chapter 11, verse 8. It says, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our power, Yahweh Shemi Shai, was crucified." Okay, because Salakia, the great city is America, aka Babylon the Great. You know, and it's just a big city. It doesn't have walls. You know, woe to you unwalled villages. You know, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 38. All right, because in this place is Sodom and Egypt. Egypt, due to the captivity that we served over here, back whenever the slave ships docked over here, but also the North. The so-called North American Indians, you know, which are Reuben and Gad, you know, and Issachar, which are the so-called Mexicans, all right, but niggas are still Mexicans to this day, you know, because they are void of the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Yahweh Shemi Shai. That's why they're in that dead state of mind, all right, and this was a spot that Yahweh Shai was crucified because they X'd him out. They chose to put up the face of Chezi B or Caesar Borgia, you know, and they tried to remove our heritage, but yet take our book at the same time. All right, and that's one of the main reasons why this word is our treasure. You know, like it says in that Revelations 2 and 9, "For thou art rich," and we are rich because of this truth, this word. But people, they have a veil over their eyes, even though Yahweh Shemi Shai took that veil away. They still don't want to see the fact of the truth because they are of their father, the devil, as it says in that John chapter 8, verse 44. All right, but.
Can you read that 11 and 8 again?
It says, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified."
Right, because when you go into the process of crucifixion, like in the Roman Empire, it was a public shaming, basically. It was a public, it was a punishment. It was a public display. And Yahweh Shai in these times has been put to an open shame through so-called Christianity. All right, them portraying him as a stringy-haired, ramen noodle-headed Mo. All right, who's really Caesar Borgia, who's really the Edomite.
Yeah,
and that's not the accurate depiction of the only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father. The only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai, is it looks like a so-called Negro.
Yep.
All right. And he's an austere, very serious-minded, individual.
Yeah.
You know?
And so that hits home that much more to see Esau come and try to do away with what the scriptures have said. Mm-hmm. Right? They go off book. All right, just like they have taken the name, the heritage, everything that Jake does or was, they have taken everything away from us and put it on a whole other people. All right, which are their people, which are the tiny tops.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but so after we can jump back. We can
I keep going. Though.
Yeah, we can go. We can keep going on that.
I mean, that's a heavy point, though. That scripture is heavy, though, and that's kind of a dark saying. Talking about America, but for a new listener, that's a nail biter. Like, why is it saying where our Lord was also crucified? You know what I'm saying? That makes me think about too. There's a saying, like in the media, before they kill a person for real, they try to kill their character.
Yep, they gotta kill their character,
or they kill their reputation. You know what I mean? And this is a bad example. Kanye.
Yep.
Right? Kanye kind of went through that, them destroying his name and his reputation by making him seem like he was bugged out, like he's crazy. And he is bugged out.
Yeah.
But he also had that album cover, remember Yeezus, where he was actually depicting himself as being crucified. You know what I mean? But really it was more symbolic. He was trying to communicate what was happening to him, but that nigga's out of there.
He's in a whole new zone.
That nigga's out of there.
He's in a whole new zone.
But slack.
But nah. It just shows that they do that to us, all right, because it's actually written that curses him that hangeth upon a tree. Acts chapter 5. Because a crucifixion is you hanging on a tree.
Right.
That's a curse. All right, and that's written in the scriptures. So yeah, it is happening to our people. We were hung on trees. All right, and that's a check mark to showing who we are as being the nation of Israel. Because that didn't happen to those tiny tops. Okay, but you got it. Go back to that 2 Corinthians chapter 4. I don't want to get too far off topic, but this is hell for a man that's in his right mind. That Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 7, surely oppression makes the wise man mad, and the gift destroyeth the heart. This is hell, because we're going mad, having to stay in this society, knowing who we are, and knowing who they're trying to portray us to be. But like it again, Bible shot.
This is 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 3. It says, "But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Hamashiach, who is the image of God, should shine unto them."
See, and that's why these scriptures are your treasures, because this is Yahweh Shai shining, to you. All right, because what's that, Baruch? Salaki, I know I'm all over the spot, but that Baruch chapter 4. Is it 3 and 8? 4 and 8? Chapter 3 and 8. Salakia. Because we had to, fall away because we transgressed before the eyes of Yahweh Shemi Al Shai, and he put us in a docile, low position, okay, because we fucked up, okay? And Salakia, for my speech, if you can't get it, please get off the channel, okay? But we messed up as a people, okay? And he put us in a place where our number one enemy is reigning over us, which are you Edomites. All right, y'all are reigning over us. Y'all are keeping us in a low, pathetic state through the food, through the water, through everything that Yahweh Shemi has given us to live. All right, you have turns it into a burden. Okay?
This is Baruch chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us, for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God."
And with that, since we separated ourselves from Yahweh Shem Shai, which was the nation of Israel's husband, all right, and he took us, put us in a low land, put our enemies over us, and we've been serving double straits ever since, you know. But if you got something to say on that, Papa Shah.
Nah. You want to go back to the 2 Corinthians 4?
Come.
I'm going to read verse 4 again. This is 2 Corinthians 4 and 4. It says, "In whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Mashiach, who is the image of God, should shine unto them."
So let's the image of Yahweh Shem Shai, should shine unto them, and they be quickened. All right, so God of this world doesn't want you to be quickened. He doesn't want your heart to stir. All right.
Yeah.
But you got it.
Yeah. Can I get one real quick?
Papa Shah.
This is Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 1.
Okay.
Going into that point of people being blinded, right? This is Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 1. It says, "Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee." And you can link that with what we just read. That light is basically going into the good news that's been made available by Yahushua.
Yep.
All right, and the gospel. Okay, and also the men who he set up to testify and witness of that news, of that, victory.
Yep.
That Yahushua got. But this is Isaiah 60 and 2. It says, "For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people," right? And that's the blindness. Okay, when you can't, if you ever been in pitch blackness, right? You've been out in the woods, right, in the middle of the night. You can't see, you ain't seeing nothing. You can't see nothing, man.
Yep.
All right, and that's why the scriptures talk about how they know not at what they stumble. You know what I mean? Roughly paraphrasing.
They're groping at noonday.
Yeah. So if you don't have this word, if you don't have this light, you out of there. Okay, and you've been intentionally blinded by Esau's media, by his school system, by his influencers and celebrities. They're purposely blinding your ass.
Yep.
Which is why this light, why this truth is so important.
Yep.
But I just want to get that real quick. This is back in 2 Corinthians 4, unless you want something else.
Like, you got it.
In verse 5, it says, "For we preach not ourselves, but Yahushua HaMashiach the Lord, and ourselves your servants for his sake."
We don't preach out of our own heart, because there were times where brothers would be out there preaching, doing a skillful lesson, loving their swordplay, and a scoffer would come up and be like, no, I don't want to hear what the Bible has to say. Tell me what you think. We don't do that, all right? And all this is inspiration, from Yahweh Shem Shai to correct those elect, and bring them into this thing of ours, okay? Because it's not for those ones that don't want to hear what Yahweh Shem Shai has to say.
Yep.
Okay? Yep. Because these words are faithful and true. All right? They have they have stood the test of time. All the way up into the ears that is turning into all the way up into the ears of the fishermen that's going to get turned into hunters, whenever he returns.
Yeah.
Apparatus, we are a part of that.
Yeah, I got something real quick.
Do that.
Backing that up. This is in 1 Corinthians, all right, chapter 2, and I'm gonna read down. Okay,
12.
I'm gonna read down from 2 to like verse 5.
Okay.
Because when you go into the history of the Church of Corinth too, Apollos was in Corinth.
Yeah.
And the scriptures talk about how Apollos was a man of the Lord, but they said it goes into how he was eloquent of speech. You know what I mean? So you have to imagine, and he's just an example, but like the brother saying, certain brothers are very eloquent in speech, but it's not about that. It's about the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua being put on display. It has nothing to do with how well a brother can piece up syllables and what I'm saying? and Moses, just look at Moses.
Yeah.
So let me read this. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, "And I, brethren, when I came to you, came not with excellency of speech or of wisdom, declaring unto you the testimony of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua." And that's saying a lot coming from Paul. Because when you read Paul's letters, you could tell that Paul could get down with the wordplay if he really wanted to, and he was well studied.
Yep, he was a Pharisee.
Yeah.
All right, so he had to know the particulars.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. It says, verse 2. It says, "For I determined not to know anything among you, save Yahweh Shai Hamashiach and Him crucified." And that's really the point right there.
Yeah.
All right. He's basically saying, I'm purposely keeping everything simple.
Yep.
To glorify Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. This is not about
us,
me, or me telling you how much I've been through, or no, it's not about that.
No.
This is about conveying to you the spirit and power of Yahushua. But I just want to get that.
Hey, I'll pull one in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 verse 21.
Okay.
It says, for wisdom openeth the mouth of the dumb, and made the tongue of them that cannot speak eloquent. Since you were talking about Moses, all right, because Moses, he had a speech impediment. Like I got a speech impediment. There's several brothers that got speech impediments. All right, but they're in this thing of ours. How Bashim Yahushua has set up, and every video that they do is eloquent. They bring out the word, and they show praise unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Okay?
Yeah, like music.
You
got different forms of music, you got different genres. All right, and really there's a time and a place for most genres except like fucking Screamo and Esau's weirdo shit.
Ah, man.
But for the most part, there's a time and a place for jazz. There's a time and a place for classical. There's a time and a place for if you like country. Some brothers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Various things. Like you might like string, you know what I mean? It's the same thing with brothers teaching. Okay? But brother might have my tempo might be a little different. A brother's cadence might. It's not. But it's about the spirit, man. You gotta be spiritual.
Yeah, because it's all on the same rhythm.
Right.
It's all on the same rhythm. It's a new song.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got it.
This is back in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 5. It says, "For we preach not ourselves, but Yahweh Shai Hamashiach the Lord, and ourselves your servants for his sake. For Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, who have commanded the light to shine out of darkness, hath shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Yahweh Shai Hamashiach."
So he gave his wisdom unto men, on the earth today that are set up to go out and prophesy.
Right.
Okay. So and here at GMS we have 100% truth. All right, and we have the 100% truth that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua has bestowed upon our elders and apostles, and it has trickled all the way down to soldiers or to everyday brothers, going to you, speaking skillfully, the words of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua that has not went to a seminary school, that has not, taken on the schooling or Esau schooling in this time, to get on a level.
Goes back to James 1 and 21.
Boom.
Not to cut you.
You got it.
But it goes back to James 1 and 21. The word is already in you.
Yep.
If you came into the truth, if you come into this thing, right, and you believe, that means that the seed, the word, has already been implanted in you by nature. The How by Shemel Shah put it in you.
In that Timothy, Salakia.
So again, it has nothing to do with you. We're just vessels.
Yep, which is being used for the play.
So I'm going to read this verse again if you don't mind. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 6. It says, for Yahweh, who have commanded the light to shine, or Yahweh Shemel Shah, who have commanded the light to shine out of darkness, have shined in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Yahweh Shah Mashiach. All right, and you can liken this precept. Really, Paul is going all the way back to Genesis when he made that statement, right? When he said, for he commanded light to shine out of darkness.
Let that be light.
That was the beginning of the heavens and the earth basically being created. And it's the same thing now. With this word going forth, with this light being broadcasted, this is the beginning of the world of the kingdom of heaven. That's what this is. You got something?
Yeah, this is 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14. It says, neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy with the laying on of the hands of the presbyteries, of the elders. Okay, because they gave you knowledge that was given unto them, and vice versa. That from their elders and their elders and their elders down to you. Okay, so don't neglect the gift that was placed in you, that seed. All right.
Yep. Because you're supposed to carry on.
Yep.
That legacy, that message to the next brother.
Yep.
You got it.
No.
I was just gonna say, when you go into that, like the laying the hands of the presbyteries, if you Google, for brothers that are watching, or if you look up the term apostolic, like apostles.
Yeah, apostles.
When you look up succession, or like since the person who comes next, it was a custom for them to place the hands on the person that they're getting ready to, who's going to pass them. They're going to pass the baton to that person. You know what I'm saying?
Like Moses did to Joshua.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Just like that.
Yeah. Because he and he learned under Moses, because Moses was his elder. All right. And all of that to say, just like all the way up to Yahweh Shai, or Balak Hazadak, he set up the if you can receive it, he set up the priesthood. All right, and it was the same thing, since we just chilling in Levi right now.
Yeah.
What you got?
Yeah, can you read that one more time? I'm sorry.
All right, come on. This is 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14. It says, neglect not the gift that is given in thee, which was given thee by prophecy, which the laying on of the hands of the presbytery.
Right, and back to the milk, man. What does prophesy mean? It means to say before. All right, to say before. Yep. And that's exactly what the Lord did when he created the heavens and earth. He spoke everything into existence. Yep. So us doing these videos, us speaking, us preaching, us pushing the word of Yahweh Shemel Shah is literally creating the reality that we are chasing after.
But we're about to come into it.
Right.
So like everything that we say, it's just Yahweh Shemel Shah giving you a download every night. This is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. Yeah. And then you go out and you speak and you assist the Spirit, because it's the Spirit that wake up people. It's not you, but it's His words.
Right.
All right. Yeah. So the words that you hear, if you're quickened, call it out by Shemel Shai, get up, learn. learn more, and get out there and preach because that's what it is. But you got it.
Con, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 7. It says, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels."
See?
Vessels.
Skins of chains of darkness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It says that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us.
See? Because we give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh Shemi Shai, because he gave everything to us, in this flesh, in this wicked ass kingdom, in this moment. Bro, look how far this world, look how far this word came. All right? It came down through history, and it landed at your feet. How about Shemi Shai chose you to be able to go out and prophesy? You know?
And that scripture shows that we got to be changed. We're limited in this flesh. What is that? Wisdom of Solomon 9 and 23?
Oh,
is that what it is? Right? Because again, we've been given this power. Brothers, we have power, man. Akyam, man, we have power, brothers. All right? And as we get closer to the end, the Lord is going to make it clear just how powerful we really are. But again, it's not us. It's the power that's working within our vessels.
Wait, are you talking about 11?
The earthy tabernacle waved down, that music to many things.
Yep, music for many
That's
things.
Wisdom of Solomon 9, right?
You have 9 and... I think it's 14. Yeah.
You mind reading that real quick?
I'll start at 13. It says, for what a man is, he that can know. For what man is, he that can know the counsel of God or of Yahweh. Mm-hmm. It says, or who can think what the will of the Lord is?
Only the prophets.
Yeah.
Only the men of the Lord can do that. Okay? Because the will of the Lord, the counsel of the Lord is prophecy.
Yeah, prophecy.
The things we see happen, that is what Yahweh Shemi Shai determined be so.
But
you got it.
Verse 14, it says, for the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and our devices are but uncertain.
Yep, because these earthen vessels that we're in are corruptible. Meaning what? Meaning they're gonna die. It's gonna cease to exist. Which means you're always operating with the mindset of temporary, of loss, scarcity.
Yep.
All right. Which when you operate with that line of thinking, you not in spirit. You can't really do productive shit.
Yeah.
So we've got to be changed.
Yep. Change within a twinkling of an eye.
1 Corinthians 15.
Shay, you might well hold that.
Hey, is there more?
Yeah. It says, for the corruptible body pressed down the soul, and the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that muses upon many things. Mm-hmm. All right? Because the corruptible body, these chains of darkness, all right, that we were put in as a punishment because we chose to go off from Yahweh Shemi Shai, all right, weigheth down, so like it. The corruptible body presses down the soul. Mm-hmm. All right, the soul is the thing that gives you life. Mm-hmm. That's that spark that Yahweh Shemi Shai put inside you. Mm-hmm. All right, and then for a man of the Most High, he endowed with the wisdom which crowns you. Okay, but it says, and the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that muses on many things. So it's just like oppression on oppression on oppression if you thinking in a cardinal sense. Mm-hmm. All right? If your mind is still in this cardinality, you're going to be in woe is me. You know, your mindset is...
It's like a prison.
Yeah, it's a prison. Yeah.
Yep.
And
like that one movie, sorry, I can cut you.
No, you got it.
Like that one movie, what is it? Not Limitless, but Limitless is a good one too.
Yeah.
But the other movie where she unlocks the
Lucy,
right?
Because, I know what you're talking about.
Right, because even Esau understands that our minds, right, and your spirit dwells in your through your lab. That's how we experience. You know what I'm saying? Things. It's way more powerful than what we understand.
But Baba Kushad, you said La'ab, right? Mm-hmm. La'ab, it is your heart, mind, and soul. It's everything in one. All right, that's what La'ab means. Heart, mind, and soul. You know. But wisdom crowned it. Just the. But it says. Do you want me to continue in 16?
If you think it's good, yeah, you got it.
Okay, and hardly, this is what Solomon chapter 9 verse 16, it says, and hardly do we guess aright at things that are upon the earth, and with labor do we find the things that are before us, but the things that are in heaven, who can search out?
Yep. And that's like it says in Sirach 3.
Who has searched out Sirach?
For many are deceived by their own vain opinion. All right. You're going to have a lot of guys. You got a lot of guys on the internet. You got a lot of guys in Israel that know how to speak. You got a lot of CIA agents embedded within the media. They know how to talk. Yep. They've been trained. They know how to make you laugh, right? They know how to make you question shit. But guess what? 99.9% of the things that they're talking about is bullshit. Or they're completely irrelevant to your salvation and to the kingdom that's coming on the planet Earth. Yeah. So that's why, going back to the start of your lesson, you got to be treasuring the word, the right thing. You got to be valuing. That's what the elect, that's what the remnant are going to be fixed upon. But you got it.
All right. Well, you got anything else?
I'll go 7.
All right. Con. Well, with that, the water for listening. I pray that you receive something out of it. And want to give all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Kakadash, Shalom, and Shalom.
Shalom.